So the Aldrachi Reaver talent tree has been out for a few days now, and that's given us time to kind of look at it and think about all of the talents on it and kind of what their impacts are going to be for Havoc and Vengeance. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving a quick overview of the tree if you missed my reaction or any other posts about it. I'm also going to go over some feedback, both positive and negative, as well as some implications, just early implications from the tree, and we'll do a little bit of Vengeance at the end. So make sure you like the video, comment, and subscribe. We're getting close to 10,000 subscribers. Goose is here. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, so let's just start off with a quick overview of the tree. Again, if you missed my video, I think Dratnos even has a video out now going over it. But the main idea here is the capstone art of the glaive, which basically every 3 or 20 souls you consume, depending on if you're Havoc or Vengeance, your throw glaive gets replaced by like a Giga throw glaive that then empowers your next two Chaos Strikes. Sorry, your next Chaos Strike and your next Blade Dance. So your next two like spenders, so to speak. The Chaos Strike gives you a 15% damage increase, which I think is a problem. And the Blade Dance deals 3 more glaive slashes, which isn't certain on if that is the Reaver's glaive or if it's like Blade Dance or something like that. And then the capstone basically is whenever you consume those, you gain 15% attack speed and 30% increased damage and healing on your next ability. And the attack speed is just for 5 seconds. And then there's other talents in the tree that like improve the damage of your enhancements and give you more effectiveness on them. That gives you Hunt CDR, gives you more souls, gives you some like incidental AoE, just some more Chaos Strike damage, more soul generation, and stuff like that. So the whole tree is basically built around generating these souls and like the things that generate them and spend them, and then using those souls on a big glaive that gives you a pretty strong damage component or a damage buff. Basically, that's kind of how it seems to me. Now you can choose to use this via, you know, the normal, I don't know, like throw glaive builds or not, and it should work with everything throw glaive works with. For Havoc, Vengeance doesn't really have a ton of throw glaive interactions, but yeah. So what's some feedback? Well, I think first off, good stuff. I actually really like the kind of choices you have in the tree, so to speak. So I really like escalation, which basically makes the second enhancement you use have an 100% increased effect. And I really like throw the fight for a few reasons. The big reason is just the 30% increased damage in your next ability. Escalation and throw the fight together give you a lot of options whenever you're doing this. So let's say you want to have, I don't know, like a really juicy hunt, right? Well, you can do your little combo. You can Blade Dance first and then Chaos Strike, which gives you a 30% increased damage done. And then use that 30% from throw the fight on like a hunt that is massive, right? Really, really big. Or in the meta combo, you can use Chaos Strike first and then use Blade Dance to have a really, really, really giga juiced Blade Dance. And then you can have Thrill of the Fight theoretically proc on the second Blade Dance. So that'll be really, really powerful there. I think there's other fun stuff in the tree. I think having Hunt cooldown is good. This cooldown is really low, which I'll talk about in the problems. But I think bringing this back was great. I think that Aldrachi Tactics is fine. I think Preemptive Strike could be really cool, depending on if we get like Soul Rend stuff from this. But even Keen Engagement is nice as well, just giving you some Fury. And then there's just kind of just extra Soul Chaos Strike damage on this side. So overall, I do think the positives of the tree are just like how many options you get, so to speak, right? Like you get a lot of flexibility with how you want to use this. Every 3 souls you get that glaive. Do you want to save it for something? Do you want to use it and empower an Immolation or an AoE? Do you want to use it and empower Glaive Tempest, Fel Barrage, the Hunt, maybe another Blade Dance somehow? Like how you want to work that in, at least for Havoc, offers a lot of mutability and offers a lot of options, which I think is really fun. Most of the nodes are pretty fine in like the grand scheme of things. I think that Reaver's Mark having some RNG soul generation could feel bad. It'll depend how the RNG there works with Wounded Quarry, just based on like if you get a soul this time, are you doing a ton more damage? And it's also for really short duration, so that one kind of sucks a little bit. But I also think that, you know, in general, most of these talents aren't just like random damage bonus like we've seen on some trees, like a 5% extra to fell damage or something like that, right? There are damage bonuses, but they're done in cool ways, like Warblade's Hunger is whenever you get a soul fragment, your next Chaos Strike, Shear, or Fracture deals bonus damage, or this is whenever they're enhanced, they deal more damage. You you get stuff that gives you more souls. So, you know, there's those basic damage nodes that are kind of needed for tuning, but they're done in a more flavorful and fun way, which I think is pretty cool. They're not just like 5% extra is damage or something. On top of that, I also think that the theming is really really solid. I can go get the description for the Aldrachi here for you guys, but basically the Aldrachi warriors, or Aldrachi I think they're actually called, were the ultimate glaive masters and wielded their blades with deadly grace. Each kill fueled their weapon, imbuing them with greater power. They're so indomitable that Sargeras eventually bathed their world in fellfire himself, but their spirit and teachings live on. So these are basically a warrior like race, so to speak, from a planet that was basically the only people to ever stand up to the Burning Legion, besides the player characters in Legion, obviously. And most of their lore comes from the Vengeance Demon Hunter artifact weapon, where, you know, we see that they empower their souls, and, you know, they have really strong glaive work and stuff like that. So I think, you know, the theming is on brand there. But I do think there are some issues, and we'll get to those. So I think the biggest issue, at least for Havoc, is this right here. The 15% increased damage for 5 seconds. Now, while I talked about how I think the ability is cool, how you can kind of choose what you're empowering and what you're getting, I don't think Havoc needs another damage increase window. And I think a lot of the community also agrees with that. I think having this be something where you'd want to end up, you know, stacking it even more over Essence Break causes a lot of problems, just in terms of complexity. Now, I do like that Havoc has some complexity to it. However, I think we're kind of going a little bit overboard, because with this, you now have a ton of buffs you want to stack into that 40-second window. You have Essence Break itself, you have Initiative, you have Inertia, you have Demonic, and now you also have Reaver's Mark. And that's not even counting stuff like, I don't know, like Chaos Theory or Restless Hunter or any of the other stuff in this tree. Like, you'd have Thrill of the Fight as well, you can stack up there. So you have at minimum 5 different buffs you want to stack, and all these buffs are 4 to 5 seconds basically. I guess Demonic's a little longer, but they're all short buffs. So I think that is going to really constrict the rotation for Havoc and make it really precise every 40 seconds, even more so than now, where if something happens to muck that up or you mess it up somehow, you're going to really feel the impacts of it. So I do think maybe taking this in a different direction than 15% increased damage would be better. Now, I don't know what it would be. That's not my job, because Blade Dance already is kind of that damage component, right? You're getting that 3 additional glaive slashes. So I don't know how we'd want Chaos Strike to work. They could rework Reaver's Mark into maybe a longer, less powerful damage taken thing. I think that would be fine. Like, if it's 5% for 15 seconds, I think that's a lot better, because you have a lot more time. That would also improve stuff like Wounded Quarry, which I think is an issue because this is only there for 5 seconds. But, you know, if they really want to stick with that damage amp, then making it longer at a less powerful amp, I think would be helpful, because then you have a lot more leeway to how it works out on the target. And if they want to go something different, I would love that. I think that would be better than just having a damage amp. What it could be, I don't know. I think just more damage would be boring. So they needed some kind of effect. I think that would make it enticing, make it interesting. Maybe CDR on stuff. That's always kind of fun. But I don't think the 15% increased damage is really it, kind of at all. Another problem I have with myself is just kind of how boring Thrill of the Fight is. When you look at like other capstone nodes, they're really interesting and really work back into the keystone node, which is this one. This is called the keystone. This is called the capstone, just how they're using them. Like the Death Knight one for On a Pale Horse, you get all 4 horsemen, which is really cool. This one's a little boring. You just get more attack speed, which does work for Wounded Quarry, and it also gives you more resources, I guess, so you can use more Chaos Strikes, you can get more souls, yada yada yada. And then you get the 30% increased damage and healing for your next ability, which I do think is cool. You can use in a lot of different stuff. But right now, I think it's a boring node. Maybe they could spruce it up a bit. Maybe they could also make your attacks do chaos damage. For those who don't know, this node seems heavily inspired by Chaos Blades, which is fun. But just adding a little something extra to it, I think could be fun. And on top of that, the Thrill of the Fight ability can currently, or I think is currently being able to be consumed by stuff like Meta, stuff like Demon's Blades. And I know this has been brought up to Reels, but this is kind of my second biggest gripe with the tree, where if we are doing our current opener, Meta will actually consume this, because Meta does damage. Meta does about 9,000 chaos damage when you use it, which is not a lot at all. but it would be increased by 30% here because it's an ability. So hopefully some kind of way to constrict what can be used on that. I don't think it'd be that big of a problem. A lot of buffs for Havoc are like listed, so they only work on certain things. So just putting like a whitelist or a blacklist on this so that it wouldn't work on stuff like Shadow, whatever, Demon's Blades, or the Hunt, or Vengeful Retreat, or even maybe a Fell Rush, maybe Fell Blade. I don't know. So just maybe constricting it a bit so it isn't wasted on random things would be good. So another issue I have is Intent Pursuit. I think it's really cool that the Hunt CDR is back, but this is not a lot at all. This will depend on if the glaive is an enhanced ability. I think it will be. Throw a glaive enhanced with the essence of consumed souls. But unsure if that works, but you wouldn't get a ton of CDR from this. You get 6 seconds every time you use all your abilities. And for Havoc, we're thinking we're going to end up using them between 4 and 6 times a minute, depending on how much soul generation we get. So, you know, it's kind of not a ton of CDR. I think ideally we'd want this to be equal to our current tier set, but you know, especially for Vengeance too, this is like not a lot of CDR because Vengeance gets much less uses of this than Havoc does because there's 20 souls. Now obviously they generate more souls, so it's not a big deal. But I think the CDR numbers here maybe need to be looked at a little bit, but I do think it's cool we have it. Last note I wanted to talk about that really I have a problem with is Evasive Action and Hindered Assault. I think these are really fun, but the issue here is that this is supposed to be a movement node. And again, it's like Vengeful Retreat stuff. The issue is that it's either going to be a DPS node for Havoc or not used at all for Vengeance. Because for Havoc, having both of these is DPS, right? Vengeful Retreat resetting Fell Blade makes sense because you use it to kind of get back to your target, but most of the time you will not be Vengeful Retreating away from your target in the first place if you're playing properly. So this is just going to give you more fury, which is useful in like AoE or, you know, a ton of different scenarios like outside of your cooldowns where you want more fury. And Evasive Action seems really fun, but if it gives you initiative, if it gives you fury, then I can see this also being a bit of a problem where you do like VR, I-Beam, VR, Essence Break, and I think that can get a little clunky. So I like the node, but for Havoc, I think it has DPS implications where it wasn't supposed to. Like this is supposed to be just like a movement node. And for Vengeance, they don't really ever use Vengeful Retreat, kind of ever. So that's movement they don't really need. So maybe looking at movement in a different way, maybe like I get that they don't want to do demon stuff in this tree because it's not, you know, it's Aldrachi Warriors. They didn't use any of the Fell magic, so they don't want to do Fell stuff. That's why there's no Immolation or a Metaform, stuff like that in this. Those would probably be in Fell Scarred. But, you know, I think looking at this could be a bit of an interesting thing. Last thing for my feedback before we go to implications is I do want to talk about souls a bit. So for Vengeance, I don't think souls are a problem at all. I think their bigger problem is just with using Throw Glaive, which I don't think is a real point of, like, I get it's like a gut reaction thing. I think when people use this, as long as the glaive itself deals pretty good damage, people won't complain about using it kind of at all, really. So, you know, I just wanted to throw that out there because I know a lot of the feedback is like, oh, I don't want to use Throw Glaive. Well, Throw Glaive's kind of been a thing for Havoc for a while now. It was in Legion, it was a thing. In Dragonflight's been a thing. I know it wasn't there in Shadowlands and BFA, but you know, it is kind of an iconic part of the class. So I think not wanting to use it, well, you know, that could be your thing. Then you can go Fell Scarred. But I think as long as this glaive does damage, I think it'll be fine. Same with Vengeance. But I think the bigger issue here is souls for Havoc specifically. It's very easy to lose these on the battlefield and like lose track of them, especially in fights with a lot of movement. You could generate this soul and then have to go very far away and just not get it. But I think maybe adding some kind of thing to Chaos Strike to maybe suck the souls back up could be useful. Again, who knows, right? Who knows if that's really a thing they want to go down. But having some kind of way for the souls to not be wasted would be better. And on that note, I also think they should maybe have this stacked to 2 times. There's going to be a lot of cases where you want to hold this for Havoc. With your Essence Break coming up, you want to hold this, and maybe you're not sure if you'll get one before the next Essence Break, right? Especially with the damage amp, that component there. So making this stack to 2 would mean that while you're holding it, it feels a lot better. You'll probably get it, I think for Havoc, right now you're getting the glaive 2 times a minute without using any funky stuff or including any of the soul generation from the tree. But we expect if you use talents next tier and like fully make your build into this, you'll probably get it between 4 and 6 times a minute, especially with all the soul generation from the tree itself. So you'll use this pretty often, which is good. But again, you don't want to have to end up holding that and wasting uses because you want to use Essence Break, right? So I think having that stack would be really good. But those are kind of my biggest issues and bonuses from the tree. I think overall it's solid. I think it has good bones to work off of. I think a lot of the choice here and just different stuff you could do is fun. You know, using Thrill of the Fight on different abilities can be cool. The choice between these two can be cool. I know I really like Preemptive Strike. Would love to see if this actually ends up like doing stuff. I think the build implications are fun, which we'll get to. But overall, I'm just not really sure about the 15% damage increase and just what this can be used on. I think the 15% damage increase is the biggest issue. And then if they like rework souls a bit, I think it would also be better for this tree, which I think Reels has said they're going to do that, but I'm not fully sure. Those are my feedback. We're gonna get on to implications just a little quickly, just touch on what like builds could look like. Again, I don't think the trees are changing that heavily, but the trees could change for Havoc or Vengeance in the future, which could end up, you know, changing this around as well. So we'll do implications quickly, and then we'll go on to just a quick, brief Vengeance discussion as well. So I want to talk about talent trees. We've hooked up a little bit. Now, granted, this is way too early to actually like do these, but I thought it'd be a little fun just to like look at what myself and some people in the Havoc Discord have come up with. We've got 4 trees, most of them raid focused. Obviously, if you want to go AoE, you just kind of grab Rage Fire and maybe Glaive Tempest. So, you know, not too big a deal there. But this is kind of a cycle tree. Cycle of Hatred, Shattered Destiny is really good with this because you're getting more haste, you're getting more Chaos Strikes out because you get more Fury and more I-Beams, which is more Chaos Strikes. So this is like max soul gen, right? We're going Momentum because Fire Inside is only really good with Inertia and Momentum is really good with Shattered Destiny. You can maybe move these 2 nodes into Blind Fury instead. Probably would be better, honestly, than doing that. So we'll just edit it a little bit, just a little quick edit. I'm gonna add this. Boop boop. We're not taking any means necessary because at that point, this should be chaos damage and should deal chaos damage, which would make enemies necessary worse in a single target. You're grabbing stuff like Elysian Decree to always proc your glaive every minute, and Soul Sigils to just get more souls. And then you're also grabbing stuff like Relentless Onslaught in the tree to get more souls. There's also another way you could do this with like the glaive talents. If the glaive itself ends up hitting really hard and you want to do these glaive things, and then you also have Inertia to stack. This tree seems kind of crazy, personally. Not sure what you do with this one. This one seems kind of all over the place. But this is going to play kind of similar to our last tier. I could see Chaos 3 being something instead, maybe Enemies Necessary, maybe even Burning Wound. But yeah, I actually don't even know if this is going to end up being what we play. Here's a no mover build, so to speak. Actually, I already do. Yeah, I already did Momentum. Here's a no mover build. Oh, I also realized that I'm missing Scars of Suffering. Whatever. Here's no mover. Pretty strong, honestly. You don't really need this stuff, and it makes it a little easier to play. You get a lot of cool options in the bottom of the tree. So I could see this being good as well, just because, you know, it doesn't really have great synergy with the movement talents. And then there's this, which is, I think I already showed this. Yeah, this is just without Relentless Onslaught and Soul Scar. So a lot of options for the tree. We're not taking Collective Anguish because we kind of need Elysian Decree to get those souls. And then Soul Sigils instead of 1 charge Erratic Fellheart, which does make Momentum and stuff a little worse. But I think you'd probably honestly drop Darkness if you can get away with it. Like if your raid doesn't need Darkness, which granted Darkness isn't great, but you can probably drop Darkness to get more damage from Erratic Fellheart with Momentum and stuff. But that's not really that big of a deal. So, you know, there. So that's kind of like what I thought for talent trees early on. We'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, that we don't even have stuff to test. But yeah, so interesting stuff there. So let's go on to Vengeance now. So for Vengeance, I think the biggest issue is that they don't really interact with things that consume their souls. So the whole part of the tree is just generating a ton of souls, but Spirit Bomb doesn't actually interact with anything here. It does interact with Roll the Fight, I guess, but to get that to work, you actually need to use Soul Cleave. So you're ending up wasting souls there. So, you know, it's kind of like a raid tree and doesn't really do a ton for them in AoE, which could be fine. You know, maybe Felskar is a really big AoE tree. But I think the biggest issue there is there's just no Spirit Bomb interaction at all. On top of that, a lot of people don't like using Throw Glaive. Again, I think that's not that big of a deal. As long as the Throw Glaive itself does damage and looks cool, I think people will be fine pushing it. You know, I guess there are some out there who just hate Throw Glaive and will never be okay with using it, but is what it is. Can't please everybody. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they want you to consume all these souls and give you no real benefit besides soul cleave in doing so, definitely is a little unfortunate. But at the end of the day, not too bad. The other thing is that all this Fellblade stuff, they don't really use Fellblade, so losing a lot of value there. Same with Vengeful Retreat, they don't really use Vengeful Retreat. And there's just a lot of damage in this node. Now, again, Vengeance is one of those tanks that heals himself a lot. Generating more souls means you're gonna get more healing, and also doing more damage if you're using Frailty. I don't know if they use Frailty right now. Not really sure. I haven't played Vengeance in a bit. But using more souls with Frailty. What am I talking about? Oh, doing more damage with Frailty gives you more healing. Even with like the sigil stuff, right? Sigils give you souls, and then using those souls give you more sigils, and yada yada yada. So I think it's like an interesting feedback loop, but I do think that maybe giving them some kind of benefit for Spirit Bomb would be good here, because like we have two builders here, and they have, sorry, we have two spenders, and they have builder and spender, which is a little interesting and weird. Although I guess they don't work the exact same, but still, I know no Spirit Bomb is weird, and I get it's a talent, but whatever. So I think that's kind of their biggest issue. There's other things. Intent Pursuit does like nothing for them because they're not going to have a ton of uptime on this glaive, because it's 20 souls compared to Havoc's 3, and 20 is a lot, even though Vengeance generates a ton of souls. But you know, is what it is. I still think overall it's pretty fine, but I'm not a Vengeance main. This is mostly from me talking with Topple. I think for both Havoc and Vengeance, they're a bit mid about it, but I think if some questions can be answered about like how interactions work, the tree could be a lot better, depending on how those answers end up, and also just a few quality of life changes. So I think overall it's good, but there definitely are room for improvement. So that is gonna be it for my feedback video. A lot of this is my own personal stuff, but I have worked in feedback I've seen from the community and just stuff people have also brought up to me, and just stuff I've seen Reels talk about, stuff like that. I do think this tree has some good bones. I think it could use some touch-ups here and there. I think the 15% damage increase is a big problem and will end up not being fun to play around. But I think overall, you know, good stuff to build off of. If we can build off this in a good way, I think this will be a pretty fun tree to use, in my opinion. But we'll have to just wait and see. So let me know what your thoughts are. I'll probably be sending Reels a feedback thing. I know he's not the Demon Hunter dev, but he's one of the people who work on Havoc and Vengeance, and he's the most outward community facing, so is what it is. But yeah, so let me know if you have any feedback. Let me know what you thought of the video, of course, as well. And if you're excited, if you're not excited, anything like that. Fellscarred should be out within the next few weeks. I expect we're getting alpha in April, so hopefully we can actually get into the game, try stuff out. But with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys all next time. I'll be live, I think, today, actually. This is coming out Tuesday. I'll be live around 3. Hopefully doing the new event if it's up by then. If not, I don't know. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Check me out on Twitch, Twitter. Like, comment, subscribe. Give me 10K, all that stuff. So, yeah, thanks. Have a good one. A big thank you to all of my channel members. Thank you, Sky Elk, Andrew Keenell, 100,001 Zans, Guillermo Lamas, Brad Wisniak, It's Bulk, and Magic Man 133. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. If you want to support the channel and get a few perks along the way, check the link in the description to become a channel member, or go follow me on Twitch and sub there. Again, thank you all so much. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time.